There she lies, nestled in the great Karoo, the small, dry town of Middelburg. There she hides, in streets both tarred and dusted, the small, dry town of Middelburg. Established in 1837 by the Cape government, Middelburg lies on the N9 as a central stopover between Johannesburg and the Garden Route. Many South Africans have driven through it, but few spare a second thought for this town. What could possibly be of interest in such a seemingly insignificant place? Let's start with the statistics. The Middelburg district has a population of approximately 20,000 people, and 70% of this population are living in poverty. There are exceedingly high levels of illiteracy, with very few having obtained their senior certificate. The unemployment level is approximately 43%, and a soaring 70% of the population are not economically active.
Ons wag omtrent was party 2 of 3 dae as aan die werk en as daar weer moontlik so oorsakkelte is daar weer werk. Dit is aan niks werk vir 'n week moontlik.
The apartheid government left its dividing mark on Middelburg. Roads and railways separate the races. This physical segregation has remained in the minds of some of the locals in the town, although there are many conflicting opinions on the separation.
Ons moet net aanvaar dat racisme seker deel van enige gemeenskap, maar dit is definitief nie 'n probleem hier nie. Dit is definitief vir my in Middelburg een van die beter situasies in ons land.
They know that there is democracy, but they are not used to it. They are used to the life of being oppressed. For example, when they call their bosses, they are still calling them all misters and opers. And when you're trying to speak your opinion to a white person, they just get surprised. Why are you talking like that to a white person? Do you understand? Yeah, they're still afraid. I can say that they're still scared of white people. They take them as these superior people.
Most economic activity has dwindled. Over the years, a number of businesses, among other sources of income and employment, have closed down. The town is now run by small businesses that service the farming community and commuting truck drivers. This has been linked to an increased HIV/AIDS rate, a pandemic which plagues the community and places strain on already limited resources. The dependency ratio is extremely high, with many pension-headed households struggling to survive.
Our orphans, our young people, are the people suffering most. And then on the other side, the grandparents that can't discipline the youngsters anymore. You know, that's a problem on the other side as well. Households are getting bigger because of all the grandchildren coming back to granny and so on, or being left at the granny. So socially, it's a big problem.
There they live, behind walls with cracked cement, behind walls that hide their tears, behind walls that hold much pain. There they live, those who battle to eat, those who battle to smile, those who battle to breathe. Dianne Lang, a single mother and counseling psychologist, became depressed about the situation in South Africa. Deciding to do something about it, instead of turning a blind eye, the devastating statistics of this little Eastern Cape town compelled her to try and combat these problems. Based in Port Elizabeth, Dianne traveled to and from Middelburg 3 times a week to start an HIV/AIDS adult education program, unaware of where it would lead her.
I was flying back from Edinburgh to South Africa, and I got a panic attack on the plane, and I thought, why have I got this panic attack? Well, it was just out of the blue, and I realized that I actually didn't want to come back to South Africa. And that realization was quite a shock, because I had experienced the freedom from crime in the UK, and it was a different kind of a freedom to the freedom from the responsibility of children. And I thought, well, no country really wants me. I mean, I'm a South African. I can't get hold of one of these, grandfather passport, British passports, and well, here I am. This is it. And I'm not going to be one of these whining South Africans saying, oh, but it was better with the old government. I better do something about it. And well, what could I do about the crime? Nothing. What could I do about the unemployment? There's nothing I could do about that. I thought, well, but people are also dying like flies from AIDS. I can do something about that. And within 2 weeks of landing back in South Africa, I actually ran my first HIV AIDS awareness workshop. I wanted to go somewhere to do this AIDS awareness where it had the highest AIDS rate, and where there were no NGOs, where nothing was happening. And I found this little dorpie, this little town, Middelburg, middle of nowhere.
Dianne remained devoted to the HIV/AIDS awareness project until she heard the noise of children outside her bedroom window one evening.
And there were 3 children. One was a little boy. His name was Sam. And, well, actually, I gave them names because they were nameless. Sam was about 3 years old, and he was really ill. He was dying of AIDS. And there was Betty and Patricia. And they were about 10 years old. Both of them had been gang raped. And Betty had a huge hematoma on her head where she'd been beaten with a brick during this gang rape when she tried to run away. I first fed them, gave them something to eat. And then I ran the bath water and put Dettol in the bath water, and I gave them a quick wash and put them into some of my clothes which they drowned in. Then I put them into my bed and covered them up, and I watched this little Sam all night because I thought he was going to die. And the next morning I took them to the welfare and I said, you must please take these children and find homes for them, do something. And they said, oh no, we don't have things like that. These are street children, you must put them back on the street. I was absolutely horrified. I thought, oh my goodness, now I've got these 3 sick children, I can't even go back to my practice, I'm going to have to stay here now until these kids die. Maybe it's a few weeks or whatever, but they're not going to die cold and hungry and alone and afraid. I'll make sure of that. And I had them for about 10 days when I was told by somebody that there was a child for sale for 50 rand. This can't be. And I said, well, I'll buy it. I mean, I've got 3, yeah, I'll buy this thing for 50 rand, So what I did is I went into the township and I went to have a look at this child that was for sale. I found this child. She was sitting naked next to a primus stove on the floor, and she was pitiful. I mean, she was skin and bone, literally. Her eyes were glassy, and she was seriously dehydrated. She was really close to death. And I thought, if I don't take this child out right now, she's going to be dead. The history of this child was that her real mother was a prostitute, and she had been locked up in a cupboard for 9 months because the mother was busy with her business, and she would just be thrown food in a bottle. And then the welfare intervened and gave this child, put it into foster care with this woman. This woman didn't get a foster care grant, so decided not to feed her, but fed her other children. And when she didn't get a foster care grant, she decided to sell her for 50 rand. Today, Mary goes to school. She is incredibly beautiful little girl.
Dianne has rescued many others like Mary, and from 4 children, the numbers grew. The Dianne Lang Foundation opened a care house for abused and neglected children in 2000, and today it houses 37 orphans. They each have a warm bed, are fed 3 meals a day, attend school, and are loved by the dedicated caregivers in the home.
Uzile uDianne apha emetele eze kuza kufundisa nge-HIV and AIDS, and then wanditrayina ndayi-qualify ye-HIV and AIDS. Ndabe ndingafumana certificate ne-home based care yonke loo nto leyo. Waze emveni koko wasebenza ngabantwana, ndaqala naye ukusebenza ngabantwana.
As rewarding as her work may be, the continuous emotional strain Dianne is placed under by dealing with abused children is not her only stress. She has to constantly fight to get support from those who are employed by the government to protect the rights of South Africa's children. The Middelburg Police, Social Development Department, and other bureaucratic structures fail Dianne in the investigation and prosecution of abuse cases.
There's been no support from the government, no support from the social development. In fact, I've only been harassed by them, and I've been policed by them. And I've never received any funding from them either, even though the children are placed in my care through court orders.
The government places the foundation under immense pressure to comply with archaic child care regulations without fulfilling their duties as a social development institution. Dianne receives no government funding. In fact, she is owed in excess of 700,000 rands in child care grants. After several attempts to establish their views, they remain unavailable for comment.
We are only allowed to have 26 children based on 5 square meters floor sleeping space. That's according to the National Buildings Act of 1977, apartheid. But they're sticking to that. Any reasonable man will understand that 5 square meter floor sleeping space per child is a little ridiculous, considering that they're building RDP houses in Middelburg that are 4 by 5 meters square for families to live in, which is less than the size of a single garage. And this was before they even designed double bunks. So they tried to close the children's home based on that.
In July, delegates from around the country gathered at the Conference on Orphans and Other Children Made Vulnerable by HIV/AIDS. The 4-day conference, held in Johannesburg, addressed some of Dianne's concerns on a national level.
We have home-based care, and it must already be existing in Middelburg. We do have a problem with shortage of social workers, but we've got child and youth care workers, auxiliary social workers, and we also would want to fast-track the court cases and find a way for those children to get access to their child grants and to foster care grants.
Middelburg is a very poor Eastern Cape town. It's also on the border of Northern Cape, so it's far away from Eastern Cape, capital of Bisho. So services are taken very slow to reach from the Bisho capital to Middelburg. So how effective is that?
Even within the town, the services are slow. No official comment could be obtained from the police authority. The only communication that took place was a public relations tour around the crime hotspots of Middelburg. Inspector Duplessis lent some interesting insight into the situation in the town.
This is like one of the other graveyards. This is also a graveyard this side. Okay, that's Lusaka there. The famous Lusaka. Or the old box, as they call it, the old box. The crimes we haven't got here is like armed robbery and what you call it, cash and transit robberies. That we haven't got here because we're a small town. But we've got like assaults here and rapes, murders, house breakings, stock theft, and stuff like that we've got here. And the parents, they go out, they get drunk, and they stay out the whole night, and then three kids left at home, and the oldest kid is about, say, 9 years old, and they have to take care of about the younger kids, it's about 1 or 2 years old. And then you can't find the parents because they're somewhere in a tavern, and we've got quite a few taverns here, and they go and drive around from tavern to look for the parents. It's a waste of time, because then I can't get to motherhood. I think to educate the people, to learn them more self-respect, you see, and to teach them better moral values, to teach them that liquor and violence is not a solution for all your troubles, because they think they fight with each other and they stab each other with knives and so on, that's going to solve their problems, and that's not a solution to your problem.
In addition to her work at the care house, Dianne has exposed and uncovered dubious conduct within Middelburg. As a result, a lot of hostility has been directed at her.
District surgeons, for example, have said there is no evidence of abuse when I have taken photographs of that abuse on the same day as the district surgeon has said there is no evidence of abuse, where police have said that the person has died of natural causes when I have photographs of the dead child, where it is obvious that the baby has been raped and thrown against a wall.
Dianne found baby Rosalind dead on the 25th of August, 2002. The burial certificate stated that she died of natural causes. There they lie, echoing memories of laughter, smiles, and pain in the cold, icy town of Middelburg. Those who could not be saved, those who gracefully died, or those whose lives were shortened in the cold, icy town of Middelburg. There they play, momentarily free from the memories that haunt them. There they play, safe from their worries, while they laugh and share in each other's joy. There they play on this cold, white day in Middelburg. The hostility and harassment directed at Dianne has forced her to run the foundation from an undisclosed location in Port Elizabeth.
Dianne is not a person that wants to wait for 3 months for something to happen. She wants it done. If she wants something to be done, she wants it to be done now. So she's a very straightforward person, and the people doesn't like the way Dianne is dealing with things. And Dianne is, like they are saying, Dianne is always fighting, but she's not fighting, she's just very stressful because she has to fight for the children's rights. She has to fight, she has her own personal stuff that she has to deal with, people threatening her and social workers that doesn't want to help with the children, or the police doesn't want to help with the children. So the community doesn't like the way Dianne is acting.
I've had many death threats, and it's been written on the inside of my walls, kill you bitch, get out of here while you're still lucky, take your children. I've had my wheel nuts removed, loosened on my vehicle, my tires have been slashed, my car's been trashed, my place has been broken into 3 times. I've been terrorized, things have been taken from the first burglary, and exactly 7 days later the things have been returned into another one of the properties, that kind of thing. The security guard was beaten up with a message for me to say that they're coming to beat me up as well. And I had an independent investigator do a risk analysis to see how dangerous it actually is for me.
There's a threat against her. There's a definite threat against her. And I think she's a very, very scared lady at the moment, because it's just not one incident. It's just not the one incident that's written on the wall. It's a lot of things. One of her friends has died because of, we suspect, because of knowing too much.
about the death of the little girl. So, is she next? That's the question. Is she next?
So on each rung of the ladder, they have got to protect themselves. Now the easiest way to protect yourself is to discredit the person who has exposed the violation of that child's rights. But I'm not talking about one child's right. I am talking about 63 children's rights that have been, children's whose rights have been violated, not once, but many, many, many times.
Dianne has opened a can of worms that has reached high levels of the government ladder and has now fallen under suspicion of fraudulent activities.
Well, the Scorpions are investigating me for misappropriating government funds that I don't have. I mean, then my first emotion is anger, and then the next emotion is despair, and then I feel nothing. Nothing.
In addition to being away from her children for long periods of time, Dianne is forced to make frequent trips overseas in search of funding. These trips are physically and emotionally draining for Dianne and contribute to the helplessness she feels about the future of South Africa.
Bonke abantwana bayakhala ngoba uphi na phakathi kwethu because ebesinika olathando ebesinika into esifunayo bava kabuhlungu.
I just want to say to Mama, she must know that we're not going to forget her, and we love her very much. She's like a mother to us.
Siyavuya ukuba lapha ehouse ngoba kule ndawo bendisuka kuyo ibingandifanelanga, bengafuna uhamba isikolo, bendifrayiza, bendiyenza yonke into embi mana ebomini bam. Ngoku ndiyofika apha ehouse ndajika ndangumntu omrayithi nento yonke loo nto.
I'm at a crossroads and I don't know if I can carry on, you know. Yeah, I really am tired, really. I'm being so honest. But maybe tomorrow, you know, this is the thing. I get here and then tomorrow I wake up and I think, fuck you all, man. Fuck you all. I'm going to fuck you up, all of you. Because who else is going to speak for these children?
There they dance, creativity healing their wounds, mending their souls. But what lies behind those smiles has been entrenched in the harsh lives they have lived in Middelburg. There they dance, young but with a threatened innocence, eyes exposed to much in their short but harsh lives in Middelburg. Now they smile. They have found warmth in the small town of Middelburg. How long will these smiles last? Whose hands are responsible for sheltering these smiles? Now they smile. They found love in the town of Middelburg. Is it enough to erase the grievances of the past? Is it enough to safeguard the warmth they have found in the small town of Middelburg?
Sometimes the world can get weary, can get cold, so cold. Sometimes the weather get weary. I feel so cold, so cold. Let's sad is the one who's got a shoulder to turn to.
I want to tell you a story about a man, an ordinary South African, Paseka Ntsholo, who found it in his heart to do what most of us never could. When his younger brother, Tshepo, a brilliant student who had just earned his honors degree in economics, was gunned down by a car hijacker, Paseka decided to end the cycle of violence by reaching out to the perpetrator and offering him his forgiveness.
And we said, if we can give that gift to this family, it will have an impact in that community. It will have an impact within the family itself. And maybe we can change the destiny of many other young people through that kind of positive message.
Having argued in court against a life sentence for the youth, Paseka and his family took over the medical care of his HIV-positive parents and the education of his 2 young siblings.
I would not be at peace with myself to have seen the mother of this boy die. I would not have been at peace with myself to see his father die when I can help, simply because I'm seeking revenge. In their death, I can never claim victory. But in their life, I can always walk out there feeling that through God's design, I have given this gift of life that no one else was prepared to give.
Perhaps it's the journey that we as a nation have traveled. Perhaps the experiences within that journey that have opened our hearts and minds to a different way of doing things. Because there is no doubt that as South Africans, we have a unique ability to forgive. And through that forgiveness, to build a nation that is alive with possibility. Dr. Paseka Ntsholo, extraordinary nation builder, ordinary South African. Meet Thembi Nkambule, an unemployed single mother who, along with others in her community, decided to stop waiting and start doing things for herself and her family. In the process, building a nation that is alive with possibility. Pooling the precious cents that would otherwise put bread on their tables, they bought bricks and set about building simple yet solid houses to replace their tin and wooden shacks. Today, over 300 houses built by the Masisizane Women's Housing Services Cooperative graze the Ivory Park landscape. And many of the 34 members have permanent jobs in nearby communities as bricklayers and plumbers.
My vision for the future, I want us to have a piece of land where we'll build houses and come and stay together as the community and bring back that ubuntu, the African cultures.
Thembi Nkambule, passionate community builder, ordinary South African. He is like any small business owner, working to build a future for himself and others. But a few years ago, Vusindlovu was behind bars, serving a 6-year sentence for car hijacking and armed robbery. What happened? just 21, with no prospects beyond a life of crime, he decided to turn his life around. So in prison, he completed his schooling, paid attention to the rehab programs, and never looked back. Today, Vusi owns a bustling supermarket in Randfontein. He works hard, and because of that, he received a grant from the SAB Kickstart program.
The best thing in life is that you must believe in yourself. In whatever you are doing, you must know when things are not right, you are the one going to suffer.
Looking back, Vusi acknowledges the hard decisions he made in prison. They forced him to focus on the future and gave him a second chance at a life in a country that is alive with possibility. Vusi Ndlovu, extraordinary role model, ordinary South African. For millions of South Africans, an HIV-positive diagnosis often brings with it rejection by families and friends, and sometimes even entire communities. But for trained nurse and pastor, Sister Corrine, it's an opportunity to offer hope and love to mothers and children who have nowhere else to turn. Responding to a call from God and armed with an otherworldly vision of a village of dome dwellings, Sister Corrine created the world's first hospice for terminally ill AIDS sufferers on a field in Soweto. Her positive attitude and provision of antiretroviral treatments sees many patients finding a new lease on life. Indeed, some grow so well that her newest challenge involves equipping them with skills to support themselves into the future. For the adults and the 188 orphans, Sparrow Rainbow Village offers quality care and a future in a country that is alive with possibility.
It's very fulfilling, and at the end of the day, you've achieved something worthwhile, and it really is very, very heart fulfilling.
Sister Corrine McClintock, extraordinary caregiver, ordinary South African. It's not every day you meet someone who's prepared to give up everything to help others. For Dianne Lang, a divorced mother of grown children, it was time to give something back. So she sold her house in the city and moved to the dusty town of Middelburg in the Karoo Desert. Here, she opened her heart and her home to children, many still in nappies, who had been abused by parents and abandoned by the community.
There's nothing in the world more destroying, soul destroying, than to see a child abused and the adults around don't care.
Some of the children are so weak that all she can do is moisten their lips and strap them to her chest.
And then the child looks at you, and then the child smiles, and then the child moves. And after a while, the child will sit. And when you hear that child laugh for the first time, you know it was worth it.
For the 50 children in her care, it's about feeling safe and loved, often for the first time. But more than anything, it's about the gift of second chances in a country that is alive with possibility.
I truly believe that the reason why we stay well is because there is love in that home. We are a happy family, and that home is filled with love.
Dianne Lang, extraordinary caregiver, ordinary South African. What is it about South Africans? For decades, shunned for our racist policies. Today, celebrated as champions of democracy and freedom in a country that is alive with possibility. It's people like Justice Bheke who make this extraordinary nation possible. Once an anti-apartheid activist, sentenced to death for his role in a mob killing. Today, a passionate advocate for collaboration and change. Justice marvels at the capacity of South Africans to strive together for a vibrant and robust future.
It's not difficult for me to work with people who I knew 10 years ago. Were not just my opponents, were my enemies. They would have killed me if they had the opportunity, and I would have done likewise with a smile then. But today, me and those people are jointly working to improve my society. And you know the irony, here is the black man who didn't have the right to vote 10 years ago, 11 years ago, is heading the Electoral Commission in South Africa, in the Northern Cape. How much more do you want? How much more do we show that indeed our country has moved? A long, long way from where we were before.
Once a convicted felon, today a free man in a free country. Justice personifies the spirit of optimism and cooperation that South Africans from all walks of life share. Justice Bheke, extraordinary patriot, ordinary South African.
The fourth annual Clarence Fair Lady Most Dynamisante Women Award presentation was held in Johannesburg. Now, this award recognizes and supports women who have conceived and carried out initiatives that uplift and enrich the lives of children. Kopano Rammekwa and the cameraman Andre Gous were there.
The world belongs to our children. It is our duty to preserve this right. This is the philosophy that drives Clarence Paris, the specialist in skincare. Clarence supports initiatives that protect children and improves the health of women. Since 1997 and over the 4 continents, Clarence has given awards to outstanding women who give hope to children in distress and defend their dignity. So far, 20 women worldwide have been honored with Clarence Awards.
Clarence is a very civic-minded company, embarking on many different initiatives. Caring for the environment is one. The other one is research into polyarthritis, which is a disease which mainly women suffer from. And then came the Most Dynamisante Woman of the Year award, which cares for children. And most recently, France have developed a new award, and it's called the Clarence Man Award, and that is awarded to a man who works in nature conservation. So it's an all-encompassing sort of caring philosophy that is adopted through healthcare, nature, and children.
The fourth recipient of the Clarence Fair Lady Most Namisante Woman Award is Dianne Lang, who cares for 67 abused and abandoned children in Middelburg in the Eastern Cape. Her mother, Teresa Roll, was unceremoniously thrust upon her when 3 children were left on her doorstep soon after she had moved to Middelburg to do HIV/AIDS work. She says at the time she didn't even like children, but realized that since no one wanted those children, she just had to take care of them. As time went by, more and more children found their way to her home, and she took them all in. Now she has 67 children, and she loves them with a passion that is evident when she relates her story. Dianne says the children are her reason for living, and she loves them as though they were her own. She says she wants to give them not only their roots and a sense of belonging, but wings so that they can fly and be whatever they want to be. Pressed for money, Dianne made a heart-rending sacrifice. She sold her seaside house so the proceeds would go towards taking care of the children. A video shot at Dianne's care house in Middelburg was played at the presentation. She was so overcome by emotion, she cried.
Dianne is a very good person. She's loving, taking care of us. We love her so much. And Dianne, she's taking care of us because she knows where we come from. She knows our past. She's a loving person. And we love her so much. When in our times of troubles, Dianne is always there for us. We want to say we love you, Dianne.
Dianne also received 150,000 Rand prize money in recognition of her selfless work. Although overjoyed, especially because the money would do wonders for her children, Dianne is one angry mama.
We have a wonderful constitution in this country. We have a wonderful Child Care Act. But it may as well be written on a piece of toilet paper for all it means to the children in this country. Now, somewhere the buck has got to stop. If our Child Care Act cannot be monitored, if it means nothing to the abused, neglected, abandoned, dying child, what is the point of us having that Child Care Act? And the buck has got to stop somewhere. And I believe that the minister has got to be held responsible for that act.
To echo Dianne's sentiments, the children are the future. If we don't look after them, then we are a nation without a future. I'm Kopano Rammeko reporting for Morning Live.
And if you'd like to comment, as we always urge you to, you can write to us at morninglive@sabc.co.za 011-714-5193, and that is our fax number. Still to come on the program, we're going to be joined by Dr. Joseph Machila. He is Chief Director, in charge of Pollution and Waste Management.
Hello and welcome. We start tonight with bad news and good news. Dianne Mathieu, author of half a dozen bestsellers like Kringe in a Bos, Circles in a Forest, died this morning in a Mossel Bay hospital at the age of 67. It's a loss for all of us. But on the other hand, last year this time, Charlize Theron had just won Best Actress in Berlin, and last night a South African film won the Golden Bear for the Best Film. It's U Carmen Ekayalicha, a Xhosa screen adaptation of the opera. Congratulations to everyone involved. Our first story tonight is about another prize winner. Dianne Lang was recently chosen as the Fair Lady Clarence Most Dynamisante Woman of the Year. But this woman is no obvious angel. Devi travelled to the Karoo to meet her.
A drama workshop in the Eastern Cape town of Middelburg. These children may be dancing and singing, but each one has a painful history. To protect them, the law prohibits us from showing their faces. This is Mary. As a baby, her prostitute mother locked her in a cupboard every day. She was placed with a foster mother, but when the childcare grant didn't come, she was sold for 50 Rand. This is Mary today, a happy toddler who lives in the care house. The remarkable woman who rescued her and all the other children here is Dianne Lang.
I know every one of them. I really know them. I know what their favorite colors are. I know their weaknesses, their strengths, the things they like, the things they're afraid of. I really know these children.
There are 67 children in Dianne's care. Their ages range from 18 months to 17 years. Most are HIV positive. Many have been assaulted. Some have been raped or sodomized. All were neglected. These children have become Dianne's passion and life's work.
But when she first came to Middelburg, Dianne Lang had no intention of taking care of children. She was here as an HIV/AIDS educator working with adults in the townships.
My children were big. I thought, oh, this is wonderful. My 18 years of life sentence is over. I can do as I please.
But life is what happens while you're making other plans. One night, she was asked to look after 3 children found in a chicken coop.
There was Sam, who was 3 years old and dying of AIDS. I mean, he was dying. The angel wings were flapping around this little boy. And there was Betty, and she had been gang raped.
How old was Betty?
10. There was Patricia. She was about 11.
Dianne says the social workers weren't interested in the children.
They said, this is the way they are in the townships. Lots of children live like that, so what? But at the time I was so naive, I actually thought it was only those 3. I didn't realize that we have more than 350 children living like that here in Middelburg.
The children had nowhere else to go.
You know, if you have a dog and you can't get rid of it, and the only alternative is for the vet to put the dog down, you'll keep the dog, even if you don't want it.
Reluctantly, she decided to keep them until they died.
But I started loving them. I started loving them. They crawled under my skin and in my heart and in my soul. And when Sam stopped breathing, I grabbed him in my arms and I shook him and I said, Sam, please, you have to live, you have to live. And I realized then how much he meant to me. And he did this, and he breathed, he started breathing. And it's like God gave him back to me. And then I knew that I couldn't turn back. They were mine.
Sam is now 7 and started school for the first time this year. And Dianne has many more children that she now calls her own. Like 3-year-old Donovan, whom she found on the rubbish dump as a baby. He's just one of the many children discarded by a town that's struggling to survive. Middelburg is in the middle of the Karoo, 100 kilometers from anywhere. What little work there was is drying up. The factories have closed, the trains have stopped running, and the railway station stands empty. Even the municipality has closed down and moved to Cradock. In the townships, there's no escape from the grinding poverty. On a Saturday afternoon, almost everybody seems to be drinking.
You know what's happening here? People are so poor. They're dying so fast. You know, the fabric of society has broken down so badly that there are no norms and values anymore for these children. So brushing teeth, going to a toilet, these things are abnormal things. Eating with a knife and fork or even eating off a plate is abnormal. Eating from a rubbish dump is normal. It's normal to tease one another about how old was your rapist as compared to my rapist. It's normal to say, I was raped 6 times. How many times were you raped?
Dianne and her staff try to give these children something resembling a normal family life. They cook 4 meals a day, and at lunchtime all the street children in Middelburg are fed as well. This means they cook for over 120 people daily. The house is run according to strict rules. All children have to make their beds and do the dishes. No stealing, lying, or violence is allowed. Family members may visit children on Sunday afternoons under close supervision. Every child goes to school in the township, and on Sunday mornings, they all go to church.
You're not eating breaks. Now we're going to church. I told them. I decided we'd try out a number of churches. So we'd go to one church, and I found that I wasn't welcome. And then we'd go to another church, and then the children weren't welcome. So it ended up that we were actually started going to the Catholic Church because that was the only place where we were welcome, and we were welcome there because we were the only members of the congregation.
Dianne is single-minded in her cause and uncompromising in her stance. She confronts every obstacle head-on and never backs down from a challenge. Not surprisingly, this sleepy Karoo town is struggling to cope with her.
Ek het nie 'n probleem as hulle hier woon nie. Maar nou maak hulle 'n Hengse garage op 'n drom. Toe ek met hulle gaan praat daaroor, besê ek my dit is sy kultuur om dit te doen. Wat dan van my kultuur?
I have brought the black children into the white area. So that is another concept that is difficult to swallow, because one of the things is, vat jou kaffers en gaan huis toe. Wat maak jy in jou kaffers hier in die dorp?
But that doesn't mean she's welcome in the township either. Being fluent in Xhosa, she's able to argue the point when drunken parents accuse her of stealing their children. The last death at the care house was in November 2003. Luke had full-blown AIDS and was only 18 months old when he died. Dianne wanted to bury him in the nearby cemetery and went to buy a plot at the municipality.
They said, that baby you're burying is black. That is a white cemetery. Now I wanted the baby buried there, not because it was the closest cemetery, because they said I couldn't do it. I jumped up and down and I phoned Bishu, and they very grudgingly gave me a plot.
The children helped dig Luke's grave, and today they can walk down the road to visit him there. Dianne sold her own house in Port Elizabeth and has bought 5 houses in Middelburg to house the children. It costs 50,000 rand a month to look after them.
Are you receiving any childcare grants?
No, I did apply to social development. They sent me a letter to say that they will not be funding me.
Why?
They didn't give a reason. Even the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, so they have no money.
So how are you managing to do this financially?
Well, I had a beautiful home in Blue Horizon Bay on the beach. I had to sell that home to keep these children alive.
Friends in Scotland sent private donations and second-hand clothing for the children, and every few months she goes to the UK on lecture tours to raise money.
It's not just the money thing. It's a lack of care. The Constitution and the Child Care Act is there to protect the child. But the people who are supposed to be administering it are not doing their jobs.
If social workers think a child is in danger, they sign a Form 4 to put the child in a place of safety for 48 hours. Thereafter, the court orders an investigation of the child's circumstances.
In 3.5 years, the system has only placed five children permanently with me.
And the rest?
They are also still on Form 4s. Legally, a Form 4 stands for 60 days.
When children are removed from their home and placed in an interim place of safety, then within a certain time prescribed by law, social services has to file a report in order for the court to ascertain whether that children is a child in need of care and has to be permanently placed in a place of care. And these reports are now taking, some of these reports have taken years.
Andre van der Lingen is Dianne's lawyer and is taking the government to court.
It's a specific order, it's called a mandamus order. That's an order obliging government to actually do what they have to do.
Last year, social workers removed 24 children from Dianne's care, including this baby, and returned them to their abusive parents. Some were beaten again before the police brought them back to the care house. Dianne has decided that if the state won't protect these children, then she will have to.
I'll go to the Supreme Court this time, because this is a contravention of the Child Care Act. I mean, that's a violation of a human right, isn't it?
Andre is now launching a class action against the state on behalf of these children.
In those cases, we'll have to approach court ask for a curator to be appointed and bring a class action for damages that children suffered as a cause of the abuse.
Last week, while Dianne was celebrating her Woman of the Year award, events took an unexpected and tragic turn. Included in the class action were Lionel and Jonathan, aged 14. While Dianne was overseas last year, social workers removed the two boys from the care house and sent them to House Erica, a correctional facility in Port Elizabeth.
I got lots of letters from Jonathan and also phoned him a lot. He used to phone me. I did know that he was being bullied. I took photographs of the boys. When they went to Erica, they had no tattoos. The boys told me that they were being bullied by the older boys. They were being held down. They were being tattooed. There were also sexual advances were being made on them. They were also being exposed to drugs and so on. And they were not happy there.
In his first letter, Jonathan told her that one of their roommates hanged himself on the stairs. Dianne did everything she could to get them out of House Erica and back home to Middelburg.
I have a file this thick. I've written letters to the social workers, to the case managers, to the district manager, to Bishu, right up to the Minister of Social Development, to the Commissioner of Child Welfare, to the Department of Justice, to the head of the magistrates, every single person I could possibly ask to assist in the case of Jonathan and Lionel, I have asked.
But she got no answer. Jonathan and Lionel remained in House Erica and couldn't go home to the woman they called Mama D, despite her promises to get them out.
A little boy who listens to somebody who says, I'm going to get you out, I'm going to get you out. It's like promising somebody, I'm going to give you an ice cream, and it never comes, tomorrow never comes. So for Jonathan, tomorrow never came.
Last week, Dianne received the news that Jonathan Captain hanged himself on the stairs. She went to Port Elizabeth to find out what made Jonathan take his own life. A representative from the Department of Social Services agreed to speak to us.
There was some incident regarding substance abuse, dacha, which was found on the premises at Erica House. The management stepped in. They confiscated the dacha. They did some investigation. They called the police and whatever. And apparently Jonathan was part of the group that was involved in this dacha. And some of the boys apparently accused him of it was his dacha, and well, I think the boy took it too much, and he decided that it's got too much for him.
I'm sorry. There's not a small thing like that. Not an intelligent boy like Jonathan.
Dianne then went to the police mortuary to identify his body and make arrangements to take him back to Middelburg to bury him.
The social workers on that case, and not only the individual social workers, but all the way up, every single person I contacted from the beginning right up until now needs to be held accountable. Anybody who could have done something needs to be held accountable.
I would say that we did not fail him, but there might be other reasons, emotional reasons, whereby the system could have failed him.
If any one of those people had stopped and thought, if this was my relative, if this was my child, if any one of them had done that, he would still be alive.
Jonathan was buried yesterday in the Middelburg Town Cemetery.
I'm sad because I love Jonathan. I'm sad because of the loss of potential, that Jonathan could have done something for this country. And I've been saying for so long that if we look after our children, we're looking after our future. Jonathan was our future. And because we didn't look after our children, there's part of our future gone. But I'm actually passionate. If there are not people like me out there, who is going to speak for the children? Because nobody's listening to them.
Do get this magazine and read more about Dianne and her work. Next up, can you relax and have faith when you send your car in for a service? And then later in the show, meet Mad Mike and Mark.
I took my lucky cap, I hung it on one bush, we hid behind another, and those elephants picked up the scent, looking for it, trashed that bush, killed the cat, They were very happy the cat was dead and then left us quite comfortably behind another bush.